For this analysis, we're going to look at how Norman Bates is caught in an identity crisis. One way to think about Norman's identity crisis is to think about how he seems to be caught in these different binary relationships. Binary means relating to, composed of, or involving two things. In language, the idea of binaries relates to the concepts that come with inherent counterparts. Off, on, black, white, in, out. Often these binaries have positive and negative relationships. For example, the binary off and on. When we say something like that turned me off, we're using that as a negative, something that turned you away from something. Whereas if we say that turned me on, then we're talking about something that was positive and exciting. Dark and light are another pair of binaries. Dark being negative and light being positive. Norman is often shot with both light and dark almost cutting him in half, as we see in this shot here. He seems to be both caught in the light, in the positive, in the good, and then caught in the dark, in the negative, in the bad. Another binary that seems to fit Norman is being both prey and predator. In this particular shot, we can see him sitting right in front of a pheasant, which helps to kind of establish him as prey. The pheasant is something that we often hunt and shoot to eat. This shot here also reinforces the idea of Norman as prey, as the predatory owl seems to be swooping down onto him. With the owl positioned up in the top corner next to the window, where he constantly looks out when he's talking about his mother, the owl is then aligned with the mother. Knowing then, as we do by the end of the film, that Norman has taken on the identity of the mother, when we see him standing in front of the owl like this, his head almost replacing the owl's head, we can see Norman himself has become the predator. This is just after he's looked through the peephole at Marion getting ready to shower. Another binary that seems to take place with Norman is being caught between being a boy and being a man. This shot here, which takes place just after the parlor scene where he's been talking to Marion about his mother, shows him seemingly confident, maybe going upstairs to confront his mother, maybe going up to change into his mother, since we know he will be shortly killing Marion. But this confidence he shows at the foot of the stairs is short-lived, as we see his shoulders drop into a defeated look. Let's look at the two shots juxtaposed against each other again. This defeat stops Norman from going upstairs and causes him to walk down the hallway instead to sit at the table in the kitchen. Notice how small the chair and table are in relationship to Norman's body. It's almost as if he's sitting at a child's table, which makes him look like he's a boy. Let's listen in on this discussion that Norman has with his mother to get a sense of how deep this idea of being a boy goes.
Now, Mother, I'm gonna bring something up.
I am sorry, boy, but you do manage to look ludicrous when you give me orders.
Please, Mother.
No, I will not hide in the fruit cellar. You think I'm fruity, huh?
This play on words, being fruity, brings up the idea of homosexuality, and later we'll hear the idea of being a transvestite being raised, which suggests that the gender binary is in conflict for Norman as well.
I'm staying right here. This is my room, and no one will drag me out of it. Least of all, my big, bold son.
They'll come now, Mother. He came after the girl, and now someone will come after him.
So we hear how the mother denigrates Norman, and we hear Norman's voice, the high-pitched, emasculated voice of someone who doesn't have any power. In this scene, we see Lila entering what we understand to be Norman's room, and the room seems to be frozen at some point in Norman's childhood. So with Eroica, the idea of a hero is introduced. Being a hero is often a boyhood fantasy of what it means to be a man. However, eroica, if we play with the word a little bit, is one letter away from erotica, which is revealing if we consider film historian Stephen Ribello's commentary in the 2010 DVD. Ribello explains that the unmarked book that we're seeing here implies the kinds of books in the 60s that contained pornography. So we have a boy who seems to have a fantasy of being a hero. Is that possibly a hero to his mother? If so, does that boy who grows up to have sexual desire threaten that relationship with the mother? After all, as Norman says, a son is a poor substitute for a lover.